Continue on Yoma, page 75a, Ayin Hey Amud Aleph. And we're in the midst of a discussion on the nature of the manna and the way in which the Jews experienced it, the way they ate it, and the effect it had on them. We also discussed what other things came down with the manna. And we identified that the manna also brought with it spices, perfumes, and precious jewels. So having mentioned the precious jewels, which is what the Jews brought to the temple, right? That's what the Gemara told us. The verse says that every morning they brought their gifts to the temple. And from there we derived that what they brought to the temple was something that they got every morning, namely the manna. So along with the manna came these jewels and precious metals that they were able to donate to the temple. So in that discussion, the Gemara says the following statement. One statement, then it gets back to the manna. It's quite an interesting statement, and I'm sure there's more significance, but I don't have anything on hand. But I'll just share with you. We'll just obviously we'll just learn the Gemara as it is, but the floor is open. So it's 5 lines from the bottom of the page, 75a, Ayin Hey Amud Aleph. Second to last words, V'hanesiim. So the verse reads, V'hanesiim heviu, and the princes, the leaders of the Jewish people, brought es avnei hashayam, the shoham stone. So the stones that were used for the high priest's breastplate were donated by the priests, the leaders of every tribe. Every tribe had a nasi, had a leader. Right? They come up a number of times in the story, in the narrative, and they were the ones that brought the stones for the breastplate. Everything else was donated by the rest of the Jewish people. So says the Gemara, Tana, there's a Mishnah H text which teaches Nesiim Mamish. It means literally Nesiim. What are Nesiim? So I just translated Nesiim as priests. But Rashi tells us that the word Nesiim can also mean clouds. Clouds, which would read then that the clouds brought these stones.
I thought Nesiim was the Nazis.
Yeah, that's the literal meaning of the verse is the priests. The Gemara is introducing a text which gives another layer of reading that the word Nasi is translated not just as priest, but clouds. So in this reading, the clouds brought these stones. It's quite something. So I wonder what the significance is and why this is dropped in the middle of a discussion on manna, but it's here. And the Gemara cites to a verse, V'cheinu Omer, indeed it says, and the Gemara now cites to a verse in Mishlei and Proverbs, where the word Nesiim is used to describe clouds. Where there it says, Nesiim v'ruach v'geshem ayin. They didn't have Nesiim, which means clouds, wind, and rain. So there's a verse where the word Nesiim is used to describe clouds, and therefore you can transpose that translation here, which would read that the clouds brought these stones to the temple. Quite the sight, and I'm very curious to know what the representation of this is. But now the Gemara gets back to the discussion on the manna itself.
Maybe the manna comes from the clouds.
Yeah, it's a very basic connection.
Yeah.
The manna comes from the clouds. Also, the simple reason why the Gemara brings this up is because the Gemara talked about the gifts, and that the Jews brought gifts from the manna, and then it mentions this reading, because it was also from the gifts. But there's so much more to say about the gifts. Out of all those things to say about the gifts, you're choosing this. Right? It must be because it's related to the manna in some way. Yeah, it comes from the heavens, comes from the clouds. I'm sure it's a basic connection, but I'd like to see something a deeper spiritual connection, but I haven't found it yet.
Imagine an airplane flying through the clouds and hits an oven.
Okay. Now the Gemara gets back to discussion on the manna. So you mentioned a number of times that the manna tasted like whatever the person eating it desired. And now the Gemara is going to tell us the verse from where we know that. The verse reads, V'hoya ta'amai, the flavor of the taste of the manna was ketam leshed hashemen, like the taste of something baked in oil. But the word used to describe something which is, I don't know if it's baked in oil or if it has like an oil smearing, something of that along that line. But the word used to describe the way it's baked is lished. The shed, I'm going to pronounce the word is Lishad. Tamay Lishad Hashemen. So the word shad is an unusual word. Shin Dalet. And the Gemara wants to know what its true meaning is, what its deeper meaning is. The Gemara offers two explanations to what the word shad, Shin Dalet, means. The first is Amar Rabbi Bo states, Ma shad zeh. Just like a shad. Shad could mean a breast. So it's referring to a mother's milk. So just like mashad zeh tinik tayim bakamatamim, just like when it comes to the milk the mother produces, it tastes like multiple tastes for the child. Rashi explains for us because it depends on what the parent is eating, what the mother is drinking or eating. Right? In fact, they say that a woman who's nursing shouldn't drink alcohol because it goes through to shouldn't drink too much, at least, because it goes through to the child. Right? So I suppose the flavor also comes through as well. So in the same way, the child is drinking just one and the same milk, but it's constantly changing flavors. So afaman, so too with the manna, calls manchi yisrael oichlin oisam. So long as the Jews ate it, might seem by kamam taimim, they were able to take many flavors out of it. So that's the word shad, describing its flavor, meaning a mother's breast, thus implying that it's any flavor, because it's like in comparison to a child who has many flavors from a mother's milk. One reading of how we get from shad to meaning many flavors. Another reading, ikadamri, others say, leshad mamish. It means literally a shade. A shade, not as in a shadow, but a shade in Hebrew is a word that's often described as a demon or negative spiritual forces, put it more broadly. So what does that have to do with the shade? What does this have to do with the demon? So ma shade zeh, just like when it comes to a shade, a negative spiritual demon. Misapech lekam gvanim, it can present itself in many different colors. Afaman, so to the manna, mishapech lekam taimim, changes to many flavors. So either we derive the multiple flavors from a mother's milk, or we're deriving multiple flavors from a demon. Those are the two, and both of them come from the word shade, which is used to describe the flavor here. So what does this mean? Perhaps the spiritual meaning is like this. So we mentioned before that the manna is representative of Torah. God provides Torah from heaven, especially as they experienced it in the desert. It was a free gift, as opposed to us. We have to work for our bread, and we have to work for our Torah. So if we're talking about the virtues of Torah, in comparison to the virtues of the manna, then we mentioned in the past that would mean the same way Torah has multiple flavors. Many people can learn Torah and experience it in a different way. There are different streams of Torah thought, right? And there's a different appreciation. Even two people learning the same text at the same time think of it in a different way. So they have a different flavor for the Torah. And that's kind of like paralleling the manna that has different flavors. Now the Gemara is telling us that different flavors are either compared to a mother's milk, or the different flavors are compared to a demon. So how would that translate to Torah? And they're like polar opposites. So perhaps it means something like this. One way of thinking of how and why Torah is of a different flavor, of a different taste, how and why Torah is of a different way of experiencing it for each person, is because Hashem wants to have an individual relationship with each Jew. In order to have an individual relationship for each Jew has to appreciate Torah in his particular way. And that's like the mother providing for a child in this specific way. So likewise, Hashem, providing the manna / providing Torah, gives multiple flavors to give each Jew his own personal experience. One way of thinking of why Torah has different flavors. Another way of thinking of why Torah has different flavors is because there are different problems in the world. And different people face different demons, face different internal problems. And because each person faces a different problem, they have to have a different flavor of Torah. And that's the other extreme. Is the flavor of Torah, the difference in flavor of Torah coming because each person is unique in their relationship with Hashem, going like one way, going upward mita Hashem, or is each Jew battling a different problem, different shade, a different demon, and therefore needs a different flavor of Torah to battle that demon. Right? And therefore that could perhaps be the parallel between the food, knowing that the food has different flavors, parallel to coming from either mother's milk or from demon, and the parallel in Torah having different flavors, different experiences, either coming from Hashem, in that we want to have each Jew has a different relationship with Hashem, or coming from my own problems, and to deal with my problems I have to have a different flavor of Torah to deal with it. These perhaps are the two different versions here. So that was something interesting.
So why would Hashem not permit permit them to have the flavor of garlic?
Of these 5, I don't know. I'm still stuck on that. I don't know why those 5 flavors are exempt. I don't know why these 5 flavors are not part of it. I don't know. It's a missing piece of the puzzle here, but it's interesting. Okay, the Gemara now continues on a discussion, going from the discussion of the manna, goes to the discussion of the slav. The slav is that bird, the quail bird, that descended from heaven after the Jews complained that we don't have meat. On their list of many complaints was they didn't have meat. So Moshe provided for them meat from heaven. And we know the story, at least the Jews who complained, they died throughout the process of eating this meat, this quail. So the Gemara is now going to comment on that episode. So first quotes to the verse, which reads, second to last line on the bottom of Ayin Hayam and Aleph of 75a. Moshe said, B'teisa am lachem be'erev. When God goes out before you in the evening, basar lechali, providing for you meat to eat. V'lechem ba'boker l'svaya, and bread in the morning to be satisfied. So Moshe Rabbeinu is telling the Jews, morning you'll get your manna, your bread, and evening you'll get your slav, your meat. Okay. So first comment says like this. Tana, it's been taught in the Mishmei Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Basar sheshalu shalai kahagan, meat for which they asked inappropriately, because they already had the manna which had all kinds of flavors. What are you complaining about meat for? So the fact that they asked for meat is inappropriate. They didn't need it to survive, and they had this wonderful manna. So because they asked for it inappropriately, nitan lahem shalai kahagan, it was given to them inappropriately. Namely, this is the way Rashi explains it, it was given to them at night when it's too dark to eat and too dark to prepare your food. But lechem, bread, sheshalu kahagan, for which it was appropriate to ask, they came to Hashem and said, look, we need food to survive. Nitin lem kahagan, that was given to them appropriately. Given to them in the morning, so they can prepare it and have it for the whole day. This is first comment. Mikan, from here, says the Gemara, limda Torah, the Torah teaches that derech eretz, appropriate behavior. Namely, that a person should only eat meat in the evening, at night time. Because the verse says, Moshe Rabbeinu said, the bread you're going to give bread in the morning to be satisfied and meat in the evening to eat. So the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu says, eat meat in the evening, even though it was negative in their experience because it was late at night and they were already full. Actually, Rashi says they were already, not just that it was too dark to prepare, it actually adds that they were already full. So it was like nauseous already. But nonetheless, we see at least appropriate, if under normal circumstances, one should eat meat at night. Says the Gemara, Abaye, but Abaye told us, and we had this Gemara a couple pages ago, so the one who has a meal, should only eat it during the daytime. Because it's part of the experience of enjoying food is to see it. Eating is a full sensory experience. You want to smell it, you want to see it, you want to taste it, you want to, even the texture of it. All of those elements add to the enjoyment of the food. Right? You go to a restaurant and you pay for a good meal. You don't just want a good meal dumped on your plate. You want it set up nicely. Right? Part of the experience is visual. So this is something we talked about. The Gemara mentioned a few days ago. So and Abaye told us there that therefore one should not eat during the night because there's no light. This is pre-artificial light days. So at nighttime you couldn't see anything. So if you have a good meal, eat it during the day. And that seems to contradict what we just said, that meat should be eaten at night. And therefore the Gemara reconciles it. Ke'ein Yoma, kamrinon. I don't mean literally during the day, but kind of like day, meaning at dusk. Evening time, when you can still see your food, but it's not so middle of the day that'll upset your stomach. So towards the evening, this is the best time to have your steak. This is the Gemara's advice for life enjoyment. Eat your toast in the morning and your steak in the evening. That's the right, bread in the morning and toast in the sorry?
If you eat meat during the daytime, then you're stuck for dairy products for 6 hours.
That's also true.
Dairy is good, it's refreshing.
Right. Also, I can't remember where I was reading this, that sleep itself helps the system digest, especially the heaviness of if it's heavy meat. When your body's relaxed at night, it helps, the digestive system works a little better than if you were to eat it in the morning and have to work all day with that in your stomach. It's not so pleasant. And the Gemara makes another comment. This is quite a comment. Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Rav Acha son of Yaakov said, B'tchila, to begin with, when the Jews first came into the desert, Yisrael, the Jewish people, were Daimin compared Ketana Golim, like chickens. Shemenakrim ba'ashba, that are hopping around in the garbage, eating whatever they can eat. No etiquette, no proper times for food. Whatever they can get their hands on, scraps they can get their hands on, they're eating. The Gemara doesn't say so clearly, but it would make sense coming out of slavery. Coming out of slavery, where they're for 210 years living in slavery, the notion of eating like a mensch, eating like a proper adult at certain times with your family around the table, wasn't in part of their experience. The first thing they can get their hands on, they're grabbing. And this is we see this in our generation, the whole post-Holocaust generation. A lot of them suffer from disorders revolving around their relationship with food, because they went through such extreme starvation, and whenever they can get their hands on, they grab. There are people who have all kinds of constantly saving food, or whenever they can get food, they're holding on to it, scared they're going to lose it. It's kind of it's an unfortunate post-traumatic experience. So I guess I'm assuming this, the Gemara didn't say this clearly, but I'm assuming that this is a similar thing for the Jews. They came out of the desert, they came into the desert, they left Egypt, where there were slaves for hundreds of years. So they were like chickens in the garbage. Wherever they can get their hands on, they're grabbing and eating without any proper etiquette. Eat in the morning, eat in the evening, right? And if the Gemara says until Moshe came, the Kavalahem Zman Suda taught them, here's how you eat properly. In the morning you'll have your bread, and in the evening you'll have your meat, and just eat properly like a mensch. You have your time, you have your thing. So it's, on the simple reading of Gemara, Moshe is not just teaching them Torah, but teaching them how to behave like regular free humans in the world. And obviously the two are interlinked. With the study of Torah, one becomes more of a mensch. Not, God forbid, the reverse. Right? Where there's a seder, there's an order, there's a structure, not just grabbing and running and taking things, not just physically about food, but anything. Even in one's spiritual service, let's just use the same thing. They're deprived of food, and therefore they come to the desert, they're running around like chickens trying to grab food. A similar thing could be with their spiritual state of being. They're deprived of any spirituality in the desert, in Egypt. They come into the desert, and whatever spirituality they can get, they're grabbing. And Moshe is telling them, okay, look, there's a system, there's an order, there's a structure to your spiritual advancement. You're going to start here, you'll take that, you'll move from that level, you'll go to here. Giving them an order and a structure, not just to their food, and not just to their overall life, but even starting with their spiritual life. That's what Torah does. There's a system. There's a morning, there's shachris, you got to learn something in the morning, you daven, you learn a little bit more, then you go to work, then you have your afternoon learning. There's a system and a structure, not just grabbing like the expression here is, like a chicken in the garbage. What are you going to say?
No, I'm saying that it's, you can't study intensely or with feeling when you're always hungry.
100%.
Or if I'm hungry and I'm studying, food is going all over the place.
It's hard to study.
You can't study.
Sure. That's one of the things Alter writes in Perek Ches and Tanya in chapter 8 or 7. Maybe it's even 6. One of those three, 6, 7, or 8. I think it's in 7. Where he talks about, where he talks about the different manners a person can eat. A person can eat to survive. A person can eat because he's gluttonous. Or a person can eat because he wants to use energy to serve Torah. To learn Torah and to serve Hashem. And there he says, he doesn't say this explicitly, but what emerges is that it's not just, okay, so if you're eating just for the sake of studying, then eat enough that you need to survive and then move on. No. He mentions there, quoting the Gemara, that basar shmina, good fat meat, is good for the mind. Wine is good for the mind. A good smell is good for the mind. Meaning it's not just eat, fill your stomach with bread and salt, and go on. You'll be miserable and you won't be able to focus on learning then either. So you didn't do anybody any favors. Like, who'd you help by doing that? You're trying to be all pious by only eating the bare minimum, and then you're miserable and you can't study. Eat like a mensch. Eat, drink your glass of wine. Eat, have a good dinner, and enjoy it. But all of that is done with the intention that I want to feel like a mensch, so I can go study properly. He even includes there. He quotes from the Gemara a joke. The Gemara says that Rabbi, before he began his class, would tell a joke, so the sages would laugh, and then he would give his class. So the Alter writes that the joke itself is elevated to holiness, because the joke now put them in a good mood, so that they can feel good about themselves, and now they can learn good. Right? So it's not just eating for survival, but eating eating to enjoy itself can be done in such a way that you want to enjoy it, so you can feel like a mensch, feel proper, and then you can go serve Hashem properly without feeling miserable and anxious and unsatisfied, etc.
A lot of the great speakers, Hasidic speakers, like Risky and
They all start with jokes.
they start off with a joke.
Sure.
It gets your attention.
You got to get the attention. You got to be in the mood. I'm not
You
as
have to listen because you're waiting for the next one to come out.
yeah. I'm not as good at that, but at any rate,
Still love you.
thank you. Okay, we'll stop over here, and God willing, more tomorrow on the Jews' experience with eating this slav, eating this quail, the meat that they complained for. Have a wonderful day.